Hi, and welcome to another episode of Financial Minds Meet the Experts. I'm your host, Jaime Agostino. As you know, on this podcast, we're joined by financial industry experts to talk about topics, trends, and themes that credit union professionals need to know about. Today, I've invited back Kyrus Keenan Westcott, marketing consultant, podcaster, and mental health advocate, to discuss mental health in the workplace. Kai, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I guess I did okay the first time you had me back. You invited me back, so I did okay. I did good.
You were
Okay.
fantastic. Yes.
Good.
Everyone loved that episode. Even my own team
Good.
was like, oh, he was great. When are you having him back? And they were excited when I told them that you were coming back and we were going to talk about
Amazing.
health.
I paid your team to say that, so I'm glad that they fulfilled the contractual obligation to say nice things about me.
All right. Well, and actually, one of my team members says they had previously followed you. And when she
Yeah.
was editing the episode, she was like, I knew I recognized him. I couldn't believe it. So she was a
Yeah.
fan.
Oh, I love it.
Prior.
That's amazing.
All right. So Kai, you've been really open about, your
hmm
own mental health via social media as well as your
hmm
podcast. Could you share with me about your own mental health and why this topic is so important to you?
Yeah, absolutely. My journey with mental health began when I was diagnosed in 2022, in spring of 2022, with generalized anxiety disorder, severe depression. I started off with those two things, and then later on that year, in the fall of 2022, is when I was diagnosed with ADHD, and just this past year, I was diagnosed with existential OCD. So I'm just checking off all the boxes here, and honestly, getting these diagnoses as an adult, especially in my 30s, it's been life changing. For years, I struggled in silence without even realizing it. I was thinking I was just bad at life, bad at focusing, bad at managing emotions, bad at keeping up with others that seemed to handle these kind of things with ease. And it wasn't until I sought help that I realized that I wasn't broken. I wasn't broken at all. I just needed support and the right tools and the right understanding of my brain. And mental health is important to me because I know firsthand how lonely and how overwhelming it can feel when you're battling internally, all while trying to navigate the everyday life. So through my social media platforms, through my podcast, I try to normalize these conversations. I try to add a little bit of levity to these conversations to make the conversation more easy to talk about and to help others feel less alone and hopefully break the stigma surrounding mental health.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough topic. It's a very sensitive
hmm
topic.
hmm
So, I know so many people, that it makes me think of that commercial where, they just have the stick in front of them with the smiley face covering their
Yes.
real feelings.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of putting on that happy face in the face
Yeah.
of others. So,
hmm
why is it important then to support employees? Like, let's go to the workplace. Why is it important to support employees and their
Yeah.
mental health needs?
Yeah. Supporting employees, and I said this at a talk I did recently, supporting employees' mental health isn't just a nice to have kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion, at least, it's essential for both the well-being of the individual and the success of the business, right? When an employee feels supported, they perform better. They are more engaged. They're more loyal to the company. Poor mental health, on the other hand, it can lead to burnout. It can lead to high turnover. It can lead to decreased productivity and just an overall negative workplace culture, which nobody wants.
Yeah.
So providing mental health support helps create an environment where employees can feel valued, they can feel safe, and they're able to bring their whole selves to work. And in the long run, this leads to more sustainable success for everybody, the person and the business.
All right. What are some of those support tools that, workplaces should be looking at?
Yeah, so the really good thing is that there's a lot of number one companies out there that are able to come in and just have talks with your employees, with your team, talking about how to create a safe enough environment so that people can open up about themselves and the things that they struggle with, and how the company can help them. Number two, if you are a leader within that organization, you have the ability to create a safe space for your team. You have to be able to do that because a lot of times people are a little reluctant to speak up about the things that they struggle with because they feel that they're going to be looked down upon or that people are going to think that, they can't do the job as good as somebody else, whatever it may be. There's also so many great product, like if you have ADHD, for example, there's productivity tools that you can install, like apps, things you could download. There are so many things that can help each person individually and the organization as a whole. But I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to creating a safe environment and providing resources for your team to go to.
Yeah. So, what
Mhm.
are some of the common then misconceptions about mental health that contribute to the stigma, especially in that professional setting?
Yeah, that's a common question, and this isn't just about the workplace. I think the biggest misconception in general is that people with mental health struggles, that means that they're weak or that they're unreliable. People think that if you struggle with things like anxiety and depression, that you can't handle the pressures of work. And that's not true at all. Mental health conditions are just as real and they're just as valid as physical health conditions. I say to people all the time, we need to start looking at mental health conditions the same way that we look at physical health conditions. If somebody comes into your job and they have a cast on their arm and they say, "Oh, I have a broken arm," nobody questions anything. Everybody's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Can you see the bone broken?" No, you just see the cast on. But you don't question anything. We need to look at mental health the same way that we look at physical health conditions. Another misconception is that mental health issues are personal problems that shouldn't interfere with work. The truth is, mental health affects every part of our lives, including how we perform at work. And it's something that needs to be addressed openly. And lastly, there's a belief in general that seeking help means that you are incapable or that you need constant supervision. When that happens, you're perpetuating fear and you're only enhancing that stigma.
Yeah. Wow. All right. So many workplaces, as you stated, they have mental health programs. There are resources available to employees, but there are still multiple reasons why employees don't want to tell their supervisor about these mental health issues. Some employees, as you said, may feel their supervisor will think less of them or think they can't handle their jobs. And
Mhm.
how can employers and specifically supervisors address these concerns in order to encourage employees to seek help without fearing that judgment or the weakness or the negative consequences?
Yeah, that is a great question. It's unfortunately, a very common occurrence. One of the examples I use all the time is and anybody that's listening or watching right now that is, familiar with the job market. One of the things that people are afraid of, especially if you're diagnosed with anything, is at the end of the job application, it always asks that question, like, are you do you struggle do you have like these things? Are you physically disabled? Do you have, these conditions, so on and so forth? And people will sometimes sit there being like, should I say anything? Should I say that, because things like ADHD, anxiety, depression, it's on that list that you do at the end of the form that you're filling out for a job. And people sit there and they say, should I say anything because, people are they going to judge me for it? Am I less likely to get a job because of it? So this is what I say to employers. Employers need to build trust and foster a culture of openness and understanding. That starts with leadership. I said, and I was mentioning this before, supervisors can make it clear that mental health issues are valid and that struggling doesn't mean somebody is less capable. They need to regularly communicate this, not just with their employers, or with their employees, but with potential employees as well. And communicate that it's okay to help. And if appropriate, share their own experiences, lead by example by using some of the mental health resources available. And now, with that being said, obviously confidentiality is very important. It's key, right?
Right.
Employees need to feel confident that their disclosures won't lead to negative consequences or gossip. Companies should also focus on normalizing mental health conversations by embedding them into everyday discussions. It doesn't need to be a special, after school special TV show kind of thing. It could be an everyday discussion, during team meetings, performance reviews. It doesn't have to be a taboo subject. One of the things that I do during my team meetings, I'll always start off a team meeting and by saying, "Hey, tell me about your night last night."
Hmm.
Right? It may seem simple, but little things like that foster a culture of openness and the fact that you care. And there, with time, people are going to feel more comfortable being like, you know what, I didn't have a good night last night, this, and this, or I'm struggling with this. With time, you're going to find that more people are going to be comfortable with that.
Okay. How important is the language we use when discussing mental health, and should changes be made to ensure it's more supportive and less stigmatic?
Yeah, words have power.
Mm.
Words have power, and words are also shifting, like the strength and the meaning and the effects of these words. It's going to be different today than it was, a while ago. Language is incredibly powerful when it comes to mental health. The words that we can use can either contribute to the stigma or dismantle it. So phrases like crazy, unstable, or even things like tough it out, throw some dirt on it. That implies that mental health struggles are a personal thing or a personal failing rather than something that requires care and attention, just like physical health issues.
Mhm.
If you're coughing and you're just having a coughing fit, nobody's going to be like, suck it up. Nobody's going to say that to you, right? They're gonna be like, oh, do you need some medicine, or do you want to go home for the day? Whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But we need to make sure that we're using neutral or positive languages. So one of the things, like I don't say that I am battling ADHD or battling anxiety. I say that I'm managing it. Right? It's a little bit more neutral, and it helps with the psyche as well. You can also use words like challenges, needs, support. That kind of language makes a difference in how people perceive mental health. It doesn't have to have a negative stigma to it. And it's also important to avoid using diagnostic terms casually. Like don't say things like, oh, I'm so OCD, like when really you're just neat, right? Don't, if your desk is just neat, just like, oh, I'm so OCD. No, OCD is a thing that is diagnosed
Right.
that people have to be treated for, right? So don't just casually throw that out. We need to minimize the real challenges, or well, we don't need to minimize it. That kind of language, it minimizes the real challenges that people face, that these conditions can do to people.
Yeah. How can organizations as well as managers create these then safe spaces where employees can talk about their mental health issues without making employees feel uncomfortable or vulnerable?
Yeah, this is the hard one, right? This is probably the most difficult one initially. But once you throw out the stigma, once you throw out the taboo-ness of it, it gets a little bit easier, right? Creating safe spaces, it starts with fostering a culture of trust and non-judgment, right? That should be easy to do. Managers should prioritize a thing called listening without interrupting. Managers should also avoid offering unsolicited advice when employees come forward, right? You can offer regular check-ins with your employees to, that feel comfortable with discussing any issues. You can include mental health or just asking how their day, whatever it may be. These conversations should be confidential and should be held in a private setting. It's also beneficial to have anonymous channels where employees can express concerns or access mental health resources without the fear of being identified. One of the things that I do for my team is I have a way for them to, and our HR does as well, has a way for them to express concerns
Hmm.
without it being like, hi, I'm Bob, and this, and this, right? There's a way for them to anonymously do that. And then at the end of the day, companies should also provide mental health training for their team so that they understand how to handle these conversations sensitively and professionally. Again, there are companies out there that can do this for you, and it's worth the investment.
Yeah. Do you have any examples of maybe companies who have successfully implemented, mental health initiatives like this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I obviously I work in marketing, right? And so I follow a lot of the big companies out there. And when I first got into mental health, I wanted to see, okay, what are these big companies doing to have these kind of conversations? And one example that comes to mind is Microsoft, actually. So Microsoft has integrated mental health awareness into their company culture by offering employees access to virtual therapy and offering mental health days. And they offer a well-being platform that supports both physical and mental health. How often are you at a job where they walk you through like, hey, you get a free gym membership, or if you work here, you get like you can go further than that. You can offer, things like virtual therapy as a perk as well. Another great example is Starbucks, right? Starbucks provides free mental health counseling to its employees. They hire somebody to be in-house for them, right? And they offer free mental health counseling to their employees, somebody that's trained in this. And the people that feel comfortable, they actually encourage them to share their stories publicly on Starbucks's social media and website and things like that, showing that the company values openness regarding mental health.
All right. So, as I've shared with you before, I do personally manage a team. So
Mhm.
what's my first step as a manager? What do you think should be my first step when working with my teams if I want to take this to the next level and
Mhm.
create this trust environment? What's my first step?
The first thing is just to be able to offer a listening ear, right? And that if somebody comes to you again for, to tell them how they feel, that's not them asking you for advice, right? It's just them like offer just a listening ear and validate their journey, validate their feelings. That's important. That's always the first step, not just at a company, but just in friendships, in romantic partnerships, family, all that kind of stuff. You need to be comfortable enough to validate a person's feelings, what they're going through, and especially when it comes to mental health, is a valid thing. Do not invalidate them. The next thing that you can do is look at some of the corporate resources that are available for employees to have, especially if, like, say you're a small team and you can't hire a therapist to come work for your company, right? You can outsource that. So you can look into what's affordable for you. A lot of the companies out there that offer health benefits, a lot of the platforms that they use, for health benefits or employment benefits, like they offer mental health resources already. So it's just a matter of getting the word out about that. And then lastly, honestly, it's going to take time. It's not an overnight thing. Just be human. Be human with your team, and just like it doesn't always have to be like get this done. You can always start off a meeting like I do. How was your night last night? How was your day? Tell me, hey, your son's birthday party was Saturday. How'd it go? Like just fostering that kind of communication will build comfort, and it'll create more of a safe space and trust, and then they'll be able to come to you and be more open about ways that they can help, that you can help them.
All right. Well, thank you
Mhm.
for being here. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with our audience today?
Sure. Yeah. Man, mental health, it's not a one size fits all solution. And additionally, and if you're listening right now, and this is something that you are trying to manage every day, it doesn't have to be something that we manage alone. So whether you're an employer, an employee, or someone who's personally struggling, there's always help available. Always. There's always help. It's okay to ask for it.
Yeah.
We need to continue to break the stigma by being open, by being supportive, and by understanding everybody's experiences, validating everybody's experiences. And I know this is going to be cliche to say, but it's true. It's okay to not be okay. Asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness.
Well said. So, Kai, if somebody wanted to learn more about you or follow you directly for some of these conversations on mental health, where could they go?
Yeah, absolutely. You can always visit my website, thevibewithkai.com. On my website, I offer tons of resources for people, especially if you are managing ADHD as an adult. And if you are an introvert, if you are struggling with if you're trying to manage your anxiety, depression, I offer a lot of resources on that, especially for underprivileged communities, the LGBTQ plus IA plus community, the Black community. I have a mental resource hub on my website. So if you're not sure where to start on your mental health journey, you can always start there and it'll point you in the right direction. And then you can find me on all major social media platforms at The Vibe with Kai.
All right. Always a pleasure to have you on. Really appreciate you coming on and talking about this topic specifically. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. This episode of Financial Minds Meet the Experts is brought to you by our partner, Interlusions. Viso Financial has teamed up with Interlusions to give credit unions a chance to lower overall healthcare costs while retaining or improving coverage for employees. Through this partnership, your credit union can create customized healthcare plans that will not only benefit your employees, but also your budget. You can find more information about iCare employee benefits on the additional pages of Viso Financial's website at www.vfccu.org. As always, thanks for listening and make it a great day.